Mindset is a 2004 solution to a 2025 problem. If you want next level results, you need next level identity tech. And if thinking mindset's outdated offends you, that's because you're allergic to being wrong. And let me be blunt, I spent over 1.5 years doing consistent visualizations, vision boards, and affirmations, and not a single thing changed, not one tangible result. And here's what frustrated me the most, though, was that I was helping people heal from traumas in their body, doing so very fast. And I watched people shift physical pain, emotional patterns, decades-old wounds, literally in minutes. So if everything's really energy, the question was why couldn't I apply the same principles to my business? Why was I stuck? Because I was treating symptoms, not the system. Mindset teaches you how to cope with who you are. Identity teaches you how to become someone new. And there's a massive difference. Here's the problem with mindset work is that it's all happening in your head. You're reframing, you're affirming, you're visualizing, and none of it sticks. And why is because your body believes what your mind rejects. So let me give you an example. You can think the thought, I suck. And if your entire identity is that you're this rock star, then that thought has no power. In fact, it's funny, it's inconsequential. There's no stickiness to it. But flip it. You could think, I'm a rock star and I'm a powerhouse. But if your body feels like a loser, your body doesn't care what your mind thinks. It's going to react based on the patterns it's experienced. And you've felt this before, right? Where you knew something logically, you knew you were capable, you knew you deserved it, but you couldn't make yourself do it. That's your body overriding your mind. So it doesn't matter if you're thinking positive or negative. What does matter is the response to the thought. Every single thought you think has a response tied to it that happens in your body. If you change your response, you change the result. So this is not about thinking positive. It's about reacting in a positive way to a non-ideal thought. Because you can have a positive thought with a non-ideal reaction. And that's why you actually stay stuck. You've been solving symptoms, not systems. And the system isn't in your mind. It's in the cells of your body. Your body believes what your mind rejects. And that's not metaphorical. It's measurable. So let me introduce you to something most personal development gurus won't even talk about. It's called cellular consciousness. Think about it kind of like muscle memory. When you go to a gym and you're doing something over and over and over, your body creates this muscle memory, so it becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it. Well, just like your muscles contain memory to repeat patterns, so do all of the cells in your body. And they'll repeat emotional patterns that feel similar or have happened before, especially if there's a pain connected to them. And here's the part that changes everything. This isn't metaphorical, it's measurable using what's called clinical kinesiology or muscle testing. You can check how the body responds to different triggers, just like a lie detector test does. So someone can say something positive, but if they're allergic to it, their body goes into a state of weakness, a fight or flight. Once you align it, strength. And most of my clients do this virtually. So the shift's based on more of your feelings and your observations. But the principle's the same. Your cells repeat patterns because it feels familiar and it feels in control, even if it's destroying you. This shows up physically with tension in your shoulders or tightness in your chest or shallow breathing, this anxiety that you can't explain, constant thoughts racing, right? Or even real physiological pain. And your body's wired to repeat the past because the past feels safer than the unknown. Your body is the system. Your mind is just the interface. And you've been trying to upgrade the wrong one. So let me tell you about a client who was running a multi-7-figure business. She was burnt out. She didn't want to hop on team meetings anymore, felt like she was the center of everything, and that no matter what she did, it was never enough. And after one session, she felt the weight of the business melt from her shoulders. Within 6 weeks, she was enjoying vacations again, sleeping better, getting new ideas without it feeling forced or coming from scarcity. She could be present with her family and could tune into God again. No mindset work. A full body identity switch. And the key is we didn't change what she thought, we changed who she was. So be honest, do you feel guilty when you're not working? Drop a comment if that's you. If you don't choose identity, you repeat it. And here's the most common loop that I see in high achievers is they hyper-focus on a launch or a business opportunity. They put in all the work, all the grind. It's successful. And then when they try to take a break, they can't. They obsess over the next thing and then the next and then the next and can never be present, never still. They have to keep going. And then they blame it on ADD, ADHD, all the labels. But those are just masks. They're really fight or flight responses in the body. And you don't have a focus problem. You have a safety problem. Your body doesn't feel safe being still. And no amount of mindset work is going to fix that because the mindset's the software, whereas the identity is the hardware. And what does this actually look like when someone upgrades the hardware? Well, let me show you. You don't reach a new level. You become it. I know that might seem cliche, but let me show you the difference. So I had a client who runs a multi-million-dollar company, does affirmations, visualizations, and they help her in her business, but she's been in her relationship for over 10 years in a state that feels like a friend zone. And she uses her business as a coping mechanism. The affirmations, the meditations hit a certain point where they stopped working because she was out of balance in another area. Here's the truth. Affirmations and meditations can be really good, especially when you're already in a state of alignment. But if you're not aligned, you're literally creating fight or flight responses towards those affirmations. So you could be affirming something positive, but if you have a negative reaction in your body, you're putting yourself into stress every time you try to do something positive. The cellular block underneath, well, for her, she felt like she had to do everything herself, be the driver, that if she stopped working, she wouldn't be loved. She had to earn love. That was her identity. And when we shifted that identity at her cellular level, her inputs changed automatically. She stopped forcing it. She started receiving. Her relationship shifted. Her business grew without the grind. And not because she worked harder, because she became someone who was already worthy. And I've seen this with addictions too. I had a guy so addicted to marijuana that if he tried to stop, he'd get severe diarrhea and withdrawals in his stomach and all sorts of crazy, nasty stuff. And after aligning, he completely stopped the marijuana with no symptoms. Same with alcohol, cigarettes, because the addiction wasn't chemical. It was the identity. Yes, there is a chemical component, but the identity can override the chemicals. So what's the one thing you keep saying you'll change but can't? That's not a willpower problem. That's an identity problem. And that's the difference. When you become it, reaching it doesn't even surprise you. It feels natural, simple. And my own full body identity switch happened when I went from making less than $13,500 a year to doing over $135K the next year. And that was the first time I could pinpoint an identity switch. And the biggest shift in that time was that I had to take full responsibility for the results I was getting. Regardless of my wife or any other support from my team, I had to do it for me. And that's when everything really changed, was that it became my own choice. It was my own decision, mine alone. It was from my identity, not just from me trying to copy or mimic someone. So my behaviors shifted down to even my posture, my tonality. And when I started to speak with more certainty, my voice got deeper, and it was crazy. Like, if you hear some of my old recordings, you wouldn't even know it was me. Because back then, I felt weak. I felt uncertain. And certainty shows up not just in the mind, it's in the body. So let me ask you this. What identity are you still running that's creating the same ceiling over and over and over? So if you're ready to experience real, lasting change in your life and business, watch this next video. And if you haven't yet, make sure to click the subscribe button and join me on this movement as we discover what's possible when we're in a state of alignment and we go all in on becoming who we know we're meant to be. Until next time, be unstoppable.